Okay, so let me get out of stop showing my YouTube nonsense. There we go. Now we're showing the score. All right, so if you guys wouldn't mind getting into the starting screen, I will do some interviews in the middle. So
Sure.
while most of the time you're going to be muted and deafened, I will unmute and deafen you temporarily to discuss where you're at in the match. If one of you dies, don't worry. Continue to. Well, I mean, I'll unmute you then, but the other player, you can continue to finish out the run as you wish. But let's go ahead and get this started. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you both. Good luck. Enjoy the run. And I will talk to you in just a few minutes.
Are we good to start, or do we need to wait on anything?
I'll put a quick go ahead and start in the chat when it's ready.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Good luck, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, if you're watching on stream, this is Nate. You can also call me Nathan. Please never call me Nathaniel. I will be facilitating for Gabriot and Loxi. This is their first match of the Monster Train League. They're basically ready to go. They have an Umbra set up with Restore as the secondary clan. I'm just going to go ahead and give them a quick go ahead. And let's have them start off. So they start with Void Binding, Mind Collapses, and Wildwood Sap. It's a little bit of a conflict between the Wildwood Sap and the Void Binding. So they'll have to find a good path forward there. Looks like the Herzl's Horde contains Drop Cage and Sketches. So we could see the Sketches run. There's a lot of good Sketches stuff. In particular, of course, you have Shadow Siege, but in addition to Shadow Siege, there's a lot of good Sketches stuff. Drop Cage, a little bit rough. There are 2 activators for Drop Cage, Cave In and the Restoring Retreat. And it looks like in terms of Penumbras, it is either an Architect build, so you get more capacity, which kind of goes against the whole other setup, and then you have Monstrous. So let's see how they end up rolling here. Gabriot, typically a player that likes to go the Sketches route. We'll see if he opts to go for it in this particular run. And while we're at it, let's put some better music in the background. Hold on a second. Let's get some good Monster Train tunes rolling. Maybe. If my Steam will not freeze on me. Well, we'll keep watching. I'll in the meantime try to get that. Okay, there we go. So now we have the soundtrack. Let's go. Maybe. Please play the soundtrack. All right, so what do we have picks here? We have Drop Cage for Loxi. Gabriot still kind of mulling over his decision here. Really bizarre that my I cannot get my thing to play here. Don't know what is going on. Really bizarre. It's like duplicated in here. I don't know what is. Hold on a second. Let's try something. In the meantime, Gabriel ends up going also with Drop Cage. So neither of them are going to try to go for Sketches. They're going to try something a little different, which I think is fair. Drop Cage is a little scary sometimes. And Gabriel opts to go top floor, which I think it makes a lot of sense. You want to have time to be able to prepare and prep your you want to be able to prep your top floor just to make sure you're not in danger of losing Penumbra early. And Monstrous does have enough damage very early on to be able to handle the entire floor. Yeah, I mean, and in addition, like he gets an wow, that was a lot of words. He gets an Morsel Excavator, which should help. He opts to go for the extra health. I think he'll probably go Excavator here. Meanwhile, Loxi with a very similar setup. Both of them taking the early shards, both of them taking the early trial. I think that the kill and generating morsel is going to be very helpful if they end up getting something like Morsel Master or the robot or something like that. Tends to be very, very strong. Card choices. So clean run here for Gabriot. Let me just do a quick score update here. Looks like Loxi probably on her path there, but they have Making a Morsel, Grovel, and Mind Collapse. Now, they already have one Mind Collapse, so getting more of them, not necessarily the best thing, but might be what they end up going with. There we go. Now we get some music rolling. So, yeah, Gabriel's still mulling it over. I think Grovel probably is the preferred pick with Monstrous, but I could also see... I would be surprised if they go Mind Collapse, but I could maybe see Making a Morsel if they think they're going to go Heavy Gorge. But I think my pick personally would be Grovel. It's very easy damage shield, very easy morsel generation. You can make it 0 cost. Looks like Loxi is not going to have a clean run. She did opt for Architect for that extra capacity, which means she doesn't get the trample, and as a result, she's going to have a couple of minions getting through, but it's going to keep her still within fairly low damage, so she'll still get she'll get a minor penalty on taking shard damage, but it won't be too much, and I think she should be fine in this last boss fight here. She isn't currently killing the boss. Okay, with that extra regen, now she's set. Gabriot, in the meantime, mulling over choices here for a unit. Woken Hollow seems to be the pick. Makes a lot of sense. Get that heal running, get some extra stats running. Does have a -2, so with Grovel, getting that -2 could be really valuable. So we got a Razor Sharp Edge. I think that's a pretty easy pick for both players. And then, again, just 2 points separating them right now. Gabriot looking at his second unit here. Husk Hermit, Animus of Speed. So the Husk Hermit with the Awoken Hollow, definitely a good combo. You can get a lot of stats on a sweeper. Then all you really are looking for is either other ways to scale or additional triggers. But I think that's pretty much the obvious pick in most cases. Loxi also opting to go to the right. And we'll check both the shop and the shard upgrades. Now also trying to decide. So we get a double stack on the regen, making it 2 cost. Now he could either make that free or minus cost to bring it back down to 1. He opts instead to make Razor Sharp Edge free. That makes a lot of sense. She also took the Husk Hermit here. Makes a lot of sense. I think it's certainly a much stronger long-term prospect. And Gabriot's going to jump into this second fight here, not taking anything from any of these shard upgrades on this ring. So no merged Awoken Hollow yet. Could be tricky to try to keep Penumbra alive. The enemies are doing a lot of damage with this trial. But in general should be okay. Okay, well, they're currently not. I think 1 blocker will keep Penumbra alive, but not for long. Regen or lifesteal on the Hollow, pretty good. Husk Hermit behind the Hollow. He should be fine. Husk Hermit should be able to kill everything. Loxi also opting to not do any shard upgrades at this point. Yeah, you just kind of sack Penumbra here. And yeah, the sweeper is able to kill everything. That extra regen, plus being able to get a couple of these Mind Collapses in, should be totally fine at this point. Now, Loxi, because she took the extra capacity, she can go sweeper behind Penumbra. Only problem right now is that Penumbra is dying. She can block with a Train Steward, to try to keep Penumbra alive. That'll divert 2 of the hits, and Penumbra will only take 12 damage instead. But Gabriot getting a clean finish on this first ring here. That's going to put him at... Oh, whoops. Wrong place. That's going to put him at 30 points coming out of this ring 2 with a perfect score. Loxi should be fine here. She can kill 2 of the units with Mind Collapses. That 6 damage really coming in handy to kill that unit here. I think she's going to probably try to... Is she going to block with 1, put the Morsel Miner for the other? Could make a lot of sense. So blocking with an Untumbra Morsel. Gabriot trying to pick here between these Umbra cards. Prism Retrieval, probably not really what he's looking at, but Prism Dust, Immortal Trade, definitely options here. Goes for a skip instead. Another good set of picks here. Glimmer can be really good if you can get multiple units with that restoration trigger, rejuvenation trigger. Alternatively, Steel Enhancer, just a decent amount of stats. Wildwood Sap, probably not the biggest pick. Yeah, gonna go for that Glimmer. Oh, that's very interesting. Shadow Siege. So there was the possibility of a Shadow Siege plus Sketches combo. That could have been very wild. Loxi just finishing off this fight. She should be fine with the Void Binding. She's going to add some more damage to Razor Sharp Edge. She can also block hits with these morsels here. And already gets the kill here. So let's talk with Gabriot a little bit and ask him how he's thinking about this run so far. Hey Gabriot, so coming out of Ring 2, you're I'm sure just kicking yourself over the Shadow Siege plus Sketches possibilities.
I know, I have a hunch Loxi might have took that Sketches. I guess we'll find out. But
in general,
we'll
what's your game plan right now?
Well, first plan initially, I saw a pretty good line with Void Binding and Trample Penumbra, but Diligent makes me a little hesitant there. Once I saw the Awoken Hollow and Husk Hermit combo, and the Razor Sharp Edge, I'm leaning more toward just making kind of a standard ignore your champ, make 2 banner unit, tank and spank strategy. And I'm just going to spam buffs of the Restore variety on Awoken Hollow and the Razor Sharp variety on Husk. And hoping to find an Animus of Will to infuse into it, or at least a multi-strike maybe. Mm-hmm. But if we don't get it, I suppose I'm looking for like an Ensnare maybe. That's probably my only other option at that point.
Okay. So you're going to think, or you're leaning towards more like a self-infusion on
right.
the Awoken Hollow?
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of debating right now. I'm like, there's definitely more value on the left side here, but the next Hellvent is like literally all the way down here. So I could roll the dice and get, it there, but then I also have to wait till then to make the infusion. I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet, make it self-infuse right now. I won't be able to put the other unit on the floor, but I think that's gonna be fine. I think I'm gonna clear enough waves with Penumbra and Husk on their own, hopefully, that I don't leak too much / at all, and Awoken can kind of just finish off the boss. That's the plan, at least.
Well, everything's looking good right now. You have had 2 perfect floors, so let's see if you can keep it up, and if the rest of the available options kind of fit the build, or see what happens. But good luck on the rest of the run.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good strategy. I think the if you think about numbers-wise, right? So with a self-infused Awoken Hollow at max health, you're going to get something like, close to 90 maximum health. And that's without any like upgrades from upgrade shops. So you have a lot of opportunity to buff up your Hollow, even if it starts with negative damage due to fusing like an an Animus of Will or something like that. And you got to think every single rejuvenation trigger at that point, when you merge them, is going to add an additional 6 onto your sweeper. So you can get a lot of damage very, very quickly I think that's definitely a very viable route here. Looking at Loxi, she ended up... This is interesting. So she's going to actually merge the Shadow Siege, or considering merging Shadow Siege onto Husk Hermit to just have a massive Husk Hermit to start with. I mean, she did take Architect, so this is a definite viable setup. She will have the capacity to, especially by, late game, she'll have the capacity to be able to fit the Penumbra, the Awoken Hollow, and the Sweeper on the same floor, which is kind of nuts. But let's see how she does in this first fight. I think against Talos, she should be just fine. That Sweeper is going to do so much damage. Very, very little chance of leaks here. On the other side, Gabriot is trying to keep this Penumbra alive at the moment. Looks like he might end up having some leaks here just due to Awoken Hollow. I don't think he meant to end turn like that. I think that... Oh, no, he's Ember Drained. No, I think that was a mistake. I think he accidentally clicked end turn. That's super unfortunate because he had the really, really good Glimmer to be able to prevent that damage. I think I'm assuming it's a misclick. We'll have to ask him later, but that's very unfortunate if it was. In the meantime, Loxi's setup looking very, very good. She's got that blocker with that Penumbra, who's still not quite dead. He's close, but not quite dead. But that Sweeper just doing so much damage with that Trample plus Sweep combo and all of the bonus stats you get from merging your Shadow Siege onto it. So that is a big boy. Should be able to keep her safe for the rest of this fight. She is now going to lose Penumbra, but honestly, I think she's still fine. None of the enemies are going to have more than 75 health. Meanwhile, Gabriot is getting quite a few leaks here. Could have problems just because he doesn't have enough space for the Husk Hermit. Now, this is a single round problem. By the next round, he'll be totally fine. So as long as he can survive the fight, which I think with an Awoken Hollow that big, he really shouldn't have too many problems. He's just going to leak a lot is the only issue for now. But I think both are going to be able to finish off this ring. But it will mean that Loxi has the chance now to take the lead, as long as her Sweeper's able to survive. And as I said, I think that shouldn't be a problem. Even for Gabriot, that's so much extra HP on his Hollow, not to mention all of the regens. He should be totally fine. Yeah, not even taking any damage. So he will take a lot of pyre damage, but he does get to move on. No restarts. And I think he'll be happy at just being able to progress at this point. Also, did not capture Loxi's last win there, so my mistake. Interesting choices. So Channel Song could be very, very good. Also could have worked really well with the Shadow Siege. And then Blazing Bolts, Unleash the Wildwood. I think probably Unleash the Wildwood makes the most sense. That's what he opts for here. He's still looking for something to put onto the Husk Hermit. I think mixing the extra capacity from the Hollow may be tricky. So I don't know if he's going to go for that. Looks like he's just going to skip and try to get something better later. Loxi trying to just maximize the amount of stats through gorging. Is able to get a health regen. Going to opt for that Excavator here. And I think she should also be fine. That's a lot of damage. 100 damage. 4 hits. Yeah. Very easily going to kill Talos here, and that will put her into the lead for now. Let's do a short interview and just kind of see how she's feeling about the run. Let me just update the score really quick. Yeah, up by 3 points at this right now. Let's see how she's feeling about the run.
It's just a nice little bit of extra sustain.
So, Loxi.
Oh, hey.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
How are you feeling about the run so far?
Pretty good. I've got a chunky sweeper, so I mean that's a good way towards winning, towards at least completing the run. I mean.
Yeah, I think going with Architect, you definitely have the space. How are you feeling about the potential Sketches Shadow Siege possibility?
Did you see me hovering over Shadow Siege? That was what I was thinking. I'm like, no, I could have done it. because I really did want to take that Sketches. I don't know, you can have amazing runs with that, and I knew that Gabriot probably wouldn't have taken it, so, you know, but it felt a little bit too risky. There's not much with Awoken that you really want to do with Sketches, so I avoided it this time.
But I think the merge makes sense. If you went with something other than Architect, certainly it's going to be harder to make the thick Husk Hermit work, but... so what else do you feel like you want to try to kind of flesh out the rest of your strategy? What would be your ideal next options to add in?
I mean, multi-strikes, obviously the best hit at the moment. So either hitting that in the shop or finding a Furnace Tap. Beyond that though, like I feel like my scaling's not too bad. Hitting a holdover on one of these razor sharp edges will get me going, and maybe a little bit more sustain. The problem is with, like, I've got an immortal trade, but I'm in a position where I can't generate Ember consistently, so if I find something that allows me to get Ember repeatedly, so like a Hell's Banners with the morsels, I think something like that would be really good, especially with my the Shade Lamp.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, something that gives me constant Ember generation, just to allow me to pick up some Ember Drain cards and hopefully a Furnace Tap.
Well, let's see what the game gives you. Good luck on the rest of the run, and we will check in a little bit later.
Awesome, thanks Nate.
All right, so in the meantime, Gabriot didn't find any good units to merge in his Husk Hermit, so he's just going to kind of do it vanilla, but which is okay. He'll get a lot of his scaling directly from the rejuvenation triggers on the Hollow. He does have a little bit of a tough choice here. He can either choose to get rid of the Weight of Contrition or play the Wildwood Sap. He will have enough damage to kill the backliner either way, but I think it's a question of long-term prospects. If he doesn't play that Wildwood Sap right now, could be difficult. He opts to instead take the little bit of damage, assuming that it might be more difficult later. Oh, he actually did pick up the Shattered Shell, but doesn't have the option to merge it yet. Okay, so eventually he will mix the Shattered Shell. That makes a lot of sense. For now, almost able to get the kill here. With the Unleash the Wildwood, it will cost him 3 damage, but he will take 2 damage if he doesn't play it. So that's kind of a tough choice. It's either take 2 damage from that, or take 2 damage from the spikes, or the 3 damage from the purge. Kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. I think he's just checking his next couple of turns to see what he's going to get. And yeah, still kind of hovering, not quite sure how he wants to tackle this. Both of them at pretty similar shard counts. Gabriot just a little bit ahead, about 15 ahead. He opts to take the 2 damage to the Pyre. That's going to put him at 5. So that extra 1 actually makes a difference in the scoring, because the threshold, in case you're not aware, the threshold is at 0 damage, 5 damage, and then the next threshold is at 20 damage. So definitely, if he can keep it down to just that 5 damage, it will be better for his score. He isn't able to do so, though. He's going to take another 11. Oh, no, more than that. Yeah, he is able to clear this floor, though. That's definitely more promising. Next floor, a little bit more intense right now. That guy's doing 100, or he has 100 health. He's trying to see if he needs to actually use Void Binding just to get enough damage out. With the Glimmer, he could theoretically remove the damage shield. Oh, but it's 2 damage shield. Okay, so let's see how he does here. He's got to do a lot of damage very quickly. The other major issue he might have is can he kill the boss? He's going to put the Excavator down. That gives him a couple more hits. Not able to get the kill. He will... Actually, he might die right here. Nope, he's going to barely live with 1 HP. So, very, very dangerous. The damage counts immediately. So the way that we score is, and that's why there's a little bit of separation in the score right now, is it's per round, damage per round. So every round you have the chance of getting 5 additional points if you get no damage. Otherwise, it scales. Okay, he does have a problem here. He is going to have to do a restart. Just not able to get the damage he needs. So with a restart, the first restart, you lose all points on that ring. So we'll have to see in just a minute how many points that ends up being. Otherwise, if you restart the second time, then you're completely eliminated. And there's been a lot of eliminations on Ring 4. A lot of eliminations so far in the league. These Ring 4 fights. It's tough. I think what he's deciding is that garbage was really hurting him long term. And he feels like if he can get some better damage earlier on and prevent some of those hits, he might be in a better spot. He's going to opt to do the Glimmer and use Razor Sharp. Let's see, Primordia or Penumbra does 86, so he will be able to get a pretty decent chunk of damage out. Might not be enough. I think taking the trial might have actually seriously impacted his ability to finish off this run. We'll have to see. He will be able to clear this floor when he gets to the top. The real question is going to be, how does he do against this one unit? Because it is going to do a lot of damage really quickly. If you take some damage, and if, it is net damage. So if you out heal the damage you take, you're completely fine. Meanwhile, Loxi not yet taking any damage. She's benefiting a lot from that early stats, on the big Husk Hermit. So with that multi-strike, she is able to clear. Gabriot looking a little bit safer here. As long as he can clear on the bottom floor, he should be completely fine. He even might be able to get enough damage with just Penumbra. Let's see how he does on the bottom floor. Oh, he's getting the kill, so he'll be able to survive. He won't get any points, but he will be able to continue on without getting eliminated. So good job on Gabriot finding a line to finish. And even though he won't get points for it, he will be able to move forward. And by the way, it even matters to finish off the run. So even if you die once on Divinity, you should do a second attempt, because you would still get the points from your shards, which only apply if you finish the entire run. And there's a 10 base bonus just for finishing the run. So absolutely still finish the run, even if on Divinity you lose, because there's still value there. Loxi looking at how she can try to get through this Ring 4 fight. She does have a lot of damage. She doesn't have a lot of health. That could be a problem. Although she does get the Immortal Trade. With Immortal Trade, she should be totally fine. Yeah, getting just and a single Immortal Trade on Penumbra will keep her alive. So looking really solid here going into this last round. And in fact, Penumbra's not even taking damage because the backliner, the Husk Hermit's doing so much. So good. She gets a clean Ring 4. It's going to definitely help her lead. Put her an 18-point lead. That's a full ring ahead of Gabriot due to the restart. So looking like the favorite, but we'll have to see how things go later on in this run. She did take the Capricious Reflection, so she is going to have those. You can see that now they're already upgraded, which can be good or bad. I think on something like Focus Growth here, where it's already -1, that can be pretty good to get some extra draw. Definitely eyeing that. That's what she opts to take. I think a zero cost draw and heal certainly going to be valuable. Gabriot still trying to get some good upgrades on his sweeper. Not yet able to merge the Husk Hermit with the Shattered Shell. Definitely in the cards for him in the future, but for right now, he's going to have to try to deal with both for the moment. Looks like he's opting potentially to keep the Shattered Shell instead of the Husk Hermit. which might be necessary for specifically the next fight. So he'll merge Husk Hermit onto the Shattered Shell rather than the reverse. He's gonna do a Battle Stone. He might just do this temporarily though, and still merge the Shattered Shell onto the Husk Hermit, but wait until he gets something like Multi-Strike instead. Shroud Spike, very interesting. None of these I would say are particularly great. Shroud Spike being the only one that has some potential value. That's what he's going to opt for here. Meanwhile, Loxi kind of doing some preview of the future to try to decide whether or not she's going to take these coins here. Gabriot opting to take the coins. He's definitely ahead in terms of shard count. But, yeah, he's living on the edge with his health right now. And Loxi still kind of hovering on this decision. Gabriot going to go into Ring 5. He might just plan to skip the trial here, given how he performed in the last trial. Especially with armor on those backliners, you really want to make sure you can kill them. Let's see what he opts to do here, whether he takes the trial or not. Loxi opting to take the trial. I think given that her Husk Hermit starts with such large stats, it makes a lot of sense. She can still fit the Husk Hermit even with a morsel. Like, that start is just so strong. 75 by 2, so 150 damage start is just wild on a unit that sweeps. Now, she is going to have to think about late game sustain. I think it's why she picks things like Focus Growth, has the Wildwood Sap, has the Restores. So there are some options there. But, I mean, Penumbra is not going to get much tankier. So we have to think about that long term. In the meantime, Gabriot, kind of standard here, putting down his Awoken Hollow. He should be fine in this fight. He can stack so much health. The Quick is also going to be extremely useful for keeping his backliner safe, and even the frontliner pretty safe. Loxi is taking a lot of damage under Penumbra, but she is able to block a lot of that damage. She can use Immortal Trade to continue to keep Penumbra relatively healthy. So at least in these first waves, no, not that much concern. Also, Gabriot able to clear the floor with his Glimmer, and he's going to be able to kill every single one of these hidden guys, these stealth units with the Glimmers. That's going to save Penumbra, probably, yeah, because the backliners just don't do that much damage. So he'll actually be in a pretty good shape here for this fight. And if he can get a merge soon and maybe get some better upgrades on his Husk Hermit, he might be able to kind of turn things around. Meanwhile, Loxi also looking really good. That extra lifesteal, again, keeping Penumbra really safe. Sweeper killing off most of the units. I think she was debating around potentially playing this Void Binding, but to avoid all that Ember Drain, she opts to just play a quick Shade Splitter instead. So more Razor Sharp Edges, so getting a lot of damage, over 200 damage sweep right now. Definitely cannot be underrated. Gabriot does lose Primordium, but he does have Quick on the top floor. I think he opts to keep Primordium, or opted to kill Primordium with the idea that he can get more damage if the backliner is able to kill these units. So I think he might even Glimmer or not play the Glimmer at all, or Glimmer on a different floor. Gonna keep lowering the damage on the backliner. And with the Quick, the regen, like he should be totally fine. Only issue could potentially be if the boss can lifesteal its way, but I think there's just too much damage. And there will be enough health on the backliner by the time it gets there. He should be also fine. Let's see how Loxi does going into these last rings. She should be fine. I mean, the guy is only hitting for 14 right now. Or 13 even. And she's doing 250 damage per round. So she only has to last for 3 rounds, maybe 4 rounds, and she'll be just fine. Yeah, she's getting a kill here. Gabriot also getting a clean kill here with the Sweeper. So it's going to help him get back into this a little bit. They are still even. But there's still a lot of room for him to get more points. Let's check in with Gabriot and see how he's doing after these last couple of rings.
I mean, I think a Shadow Siege only shows up in like 14% of runs, so I feel like I made the right call without the sketches, but...
Are you sure, Gabriot? Are you sure you made the right call?
I don't know, I hope.
So...
I mean, in this run, no.
Couple questions for you at this point. Ring 3, was that a misclick not playing the Glimmer? And ending the turn early?
Which... I am not sure. Ring 3?
Yeah, Talos fight. There was one point when you had your Glimmer, and I think you meant to click it, but it looked like you might have clicked end turn. Was it? But you don't remember making any random end turn mistakes.
I don't think so. I mean, it's entirely possible. I'm not necessarily playing that well right now.
Okay. More pressing question. Ring 4, how were you feeling after that? That boss. That
boss.
Yeah.
I hate that boss, and I hate that troop. It's like that combo is the bane of my existence because it's like whatever I do always ends up being the wrong decision. Like I've had a lot of runs recently. I'll go bottom, and then I just die.
Yeah.
But then it's like here, it's like oh I should have gone bottom.
Yeah, that's actually what got me in my first game. Is exactly that wave. I did have a different trial, but exactly that wave.
Yeah. Right.
It's brutal stuff.
It is. Yeah, that's like I think ring 4 and 5 are the hardest in the game, like these days.
So
if I'm gonna go down, it's usually those rings.
Last question for you. So are you planning to keep the Shattered Shell, or are you planning to still merge Shattered Shell into Husk Hermit and wait for multi-strike?
I am gonna go self-infuse.
On the Shattered Shell?
I think I might be able to get there. I have my Void Binding, and I'm still wondering if there's... I do see this double stacked one, and I'm like, well, I might be able to -2 it. Like, Diligence, the main problem.
Yeah.
I think there's a world... I could also just take this Ember Cache, but I don't like that it's... I don't know. It's tough to say which route is going to work here. It's probably not Excavation Eruption, but I can see double stack Voided Binding doing some work.
Yeah.
I won't be able to play anything is the problem. Unless I can get some piercing on these Mind Collapses. But yeah, it's rough. This is not how I expected it to go.
Well, I'll leave you to your decision, and good luck, and we'll catch up after the end of the run.
Yep, definitely.
All right. In the meantime, Loxi trying to decide what she's going to Hellvent. Eyeing that holdover Razor Sharp Edge for that kind of consistent damage growth on her sweeper. Also potentially looking at... Yeah, that's the one that she's going with. She was also looking at Mind Collapse, potentially for a way to generate Ember. With the base magic damage as well, that's going to be really helpful for her to get those Mind Collapses killing things, especially later as the game goes and things get more health. But yeah, I think Razor Sharp Edge also makes a lot of sense. I think the only issue for her right now is just can Penumbra survive? Currently, he can't survive too long without a lot of support. So we'll have to see how she ends up trying to keep that Penumbra alive through the Divinity fight. There's still options for Quick, so she could get Quick Tome, which could certainly help. There's not any days unless she specifically gets, or they specifically get, Restoration or Restoring Retreat or Cave In. And Cave In's a really awkward one because you're caving in, which also affects your units. So you actually would daze Divinity, but you would also move your units down. So unless you're playing bottom floor, Cave In could be really tricky. So really it's Restoring Retreat as the only realistic option for triggering that drop cage. Apart from that, Void Binding, if you can get consistent Ember generation, that Void Binding could be a route where you can keep your frontliner safe for most of the fight. But it's tricky. It's a hard one. It's not clear what's the best setup here. She does seem to be handling this Ring 6 against Arcus pretty well without too many problems. Gabriot's still mulling over some decisions in the Ring 5 shops here. He might delay his... I guess he can self-infuse now because there was a duplicate. Pick between Abandoned Antumbra and Tempered Talisman. Very interesting. I think both have interesting possible setups. We'll have to see which one he goes with. It is a lot of morsels to get. Morsels aren't necessarily the most consistent thing later in the game or later in the run, but maybe he can find a way to make them work. He does have the Umbral Spike, so there is a way for him to get a lot of value out of those morsels, whereas Loxi doesn't really have that option. But seems like she will be able to. She's giving this guy extra health, but honestly, the base damage on her sweeper is so high, like it's not really a problem. As long as Penumbra is not dying, the sweeper is not dying, she should be totally fine. She is going to Void Binding. Even with the Ember Drain, still feels like she has enough support. It's not that much Ember Drain, and she does have extra Ember. So it seems like she'll be able to clear through these units pretty well. I can't tell, that's one multi-strike, so it's just striking twice. Okay. The trample's super useful though, man. If she can get quick, get the full coverage of quick trample, sweep, multi-strike, she should be totally fine. And even without it, there are other options. Okay, so Gabriot now jumping into this same fight. Does have a really good early start with both these units. You're going to opt to try to get the most kills as possible on a sweeper, so not even playing Penumbra, which makes a lot of sense. He's even going to start stacking regen over playing the Unleash the Wildwood. Right now, does he have the Ember? I think he's got Ember up there. No, he's got... Yeah, he's got... Does he notice it? This is the question. Does he notice that its Ember cost increase? He may just say it's worth doing it even with the Ember cost increase to get that Void Binding out. Oh, no, he actually... Oh, wait, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It's not Ember increase. Loxi is able to finish off Arcus here for a clean Ring 6. Just update her score really quickly. So continuing to widen that margin. Although, as long as Gabriot doesn't take damage, he can at least maintain the same score distance here. He is having a leak against this unit right now. He hasn't played the Void Binding yet, which would give him a little bit more damage. Biggest problem right now is just that the Glimmer is not really doing a whole lot because of the damage shield. Let's check in with Loxi and see how she's feeling after this Ring 6 fight.
I guess I'm going to have to put down.
Oh, wrong one. My mistake. Loxi. Hello.
Hey, Nate.
So, you're just getting through Ring 6. It seems to be pretty smooth right now. Any concerns with your build?
Good. So, with Diligent, I'd kind of forgotten about Diligent, and I had a really nice, what's the Ember? Encased Ember, or whatever the card is that puts 3 in your deck.
Yeah.
I would have been a really nice pickup for Diligent, and I just didn't think about that at the time. So Diligent might be a concern, so I'm going to look to pick up some throwaway spells in the next ring. beyond that, I'm feeling pretty okay. Defense is a little bit slim. Like, I'm trying to keep Penumbra alive for as long as possible, just to make sure that Relentless is okay. I'm hoping to get a flying kill on Divinity so that I don't have to worry about Relentless, but that kind of relies on me finding Quick. So there's a couple of pieces that I think I still need to just make sure this stays as smooth as it has been.
Any, so you mentioned already some type of defensive option. Anything in particular that you think would help in this last couple, I mean, really just the last ring pickup? What would be your ideal pickup here to try to keep with defense?
Another Void Binding and then a way of playing them easily would be the best option. I've got healing, but healing's not necessarily, like, I don't have big health pools, so that's not necessarily going to be the best option. Like, Divine Shield really is the way I want to go. So yeah, another Void Binding and a way of playing it I think would be best. I think that what I've got might be enough defensively to get through, but I don't know. I'm not good at judging that.
Okay. Well, good luck in your last couple of rings, and we'll catch up after the run is over.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate.
Very interesting. Yeah, Gabriot, I don't know if you noticed in the meantime, Gabriot did have to restart. He's trying to swap the floors now to see if, and I think it makes a lot of sense, to see if he can get more value out of this bottom floor, clearing the backliners, keeping Penumbra alive longer, a little bit easier. He does have one leak, but it is a leak that won't kill him necessarily. This next floor on the bottom, though, very, very scary. That's a lot of damage, and he does not have a lot of Ember. So there's one hit to the pyre. How is he going to try? It's the question. How is he going to try to manage killing that backliner? He might not really have a good way. He is able to do at least a little bit of damage. And he's very close. Just a few damage off. If he can get some of these magma morsels to hit, does 15 damage plus another 6 damage. It's very close. He's actually going to play the Razor Sharp Edge. Well, he's thinking about it. he's thinking about it. Whether he's going to play it on the top or middle floor. That's a tough choice. Very, very tough choice here. You're gambling that you're going to get some form of damage on the top floor to kill off this guy. Because 115 is going to be 3 damage short. So he's really got to get a morsel, or he's got to use the Razor Sharp Edge, either now or next turn, in order to have enough damage to kill that guy. Okay, he's going to play it on the Penumbra anyway, just to guarantee have the full 123 that he needs. So no problems there. He is going to have potentially problems later on. He is able to generate some Ember with the Mind Collapse, which will help. Now it's another decision of where to play these Razor Sharp Edges. I think he's also considering putting the Train Steward out. Yeah, really tough, really tough. In the meantime, some pretty decent pickups here for Loxi. She does take the Calcified Embers, which will let her get a lot of damage out of her blights that she picks up in the Seraph fight. And as long as she can play them out early, she shouldn't have too many problems. All right, this is the moment of truth. Gabriot is going to be able to play the Sting, but he's going to lose. Just not enough. Oh, that's tragedy. Just a little bit of damage short, and unfortunately he's unable to finish the run.
But with me, either way, my plan was crap, right? So rather, obviously, I it's weird because I've done this combo so much, but I don't know.
I'm eavesdropping.
I guess.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Really
Yeah,
tough.
just trying to
That Arcus fight
Yeah,
is
trying to
brutal.
Right. It's like I probably was gonna die anyway to Arcus. Yeah, things just didn't go so well. I should not have been at 115 shards at that point, but I'm trying to think like which were the really bad shard spends. Like, how did I even get to 115? I'm like looking at my deck. Huh.
A couple -2s, I think.
must-
Duping the Razor Sharp, probably.
Right. Yeah, definitely that cost a bit. And because I had to play that Void Binding, I just couldn't really even make use of the spell chain. But yeah, that was just doomed.
Yeah, I
Looks
haven't
like
posted it
Loxi
yet.
crushed it.
I replayed the run that I lost.
Yeah.
And for me, it came down to trials that I took that just killed me. But yeah, it's hard. The hardest part is like, especially when a sweeper run, when you have like a shattered shell, is not getting multi-strike is so brutal to these sweep runs. It's so hard to get enough damage.
Exactly. Yeah, and I originally had the husk, so I wasn't even thinking along the lines of like shattered shell, but the route it ended up having to go, the glimmer, just was so bad because my original plan was like, oh, I don't care. I'll have a big heal. It'll do a bunch of damage and scale me. But with the shattered shell that I ended up having to like kind of desperately switch to instead of the husk, then it just became a liability. It was like, well, now I have to choose between giving up slays. It's like I have this good card that really isn't too good now in this deck. I wish I just went with the Penumbra. The original plan probably would have been better. Go with the Void Binding.
I think, well, I haven't seen, Loxi's just on ring 7 right now.
Yeah.
My guess, we'll have to see. There has not been a Furnace Tap, though, and I feel like it's always super risky going a Penumbra route without Furnace Tap.
Right. Yeah, especially with... I'd be more confident if it wasn't Diligent. Diligent puts a wrench in it, but I do think if you zero cost a Void Binding and hold it over, which we could have done, the offering was there at the first shop, but it's just so hard to make that work with Diligent. Any of the other Seraphs, though, I think it's if you get that early holdover on it and zero cost it, you can pretty much just basically solo it with Penumbra if you Hellvent that Void Binding with all your Hellvents.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Or if you luck out and get a ×5 Cavern event, but even without...
Right, it's still not the best line. Like, you still leak a bit. Probably for tournament. I think I second guessed myself too, because I was like, tournament scoring, maybe this Void Binding is also just a bad line because it's probably going to leak and have Scourges at the very least hit you.
I think the biggest problem is, exactly, Scourges plus just slowly losing your Void Bindings in the Seraph fight can be really tragic if you don't find another alternative. Now, I mean, you are Awoken, so you do have infinite stings, you do have infinite, what are they called? The other one that you can also generate.
Preserve Thorns.
Well, Preserve Thorns, but there's the other one too.
Thorn Fruit.
Yes, that's the one that generates
Vine Mother.
Well, it's the one that generates the grab and pulls.
Curse Vines.
Curse Vines, yeah. So I think there are options, but it's always speculative.
Right.
Like, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
Let me unmute Loxi. We can talk a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That
So Loxi,
drawing cards. Oh,
you probably already noticed. Gabriot unfortunately was not able to complete Ring 6. So that does make you.
Yes, I did see that.
That does make you the winner of this first game. So just so everyone feels better, nobody took Shadow Siege as a standalone unit with sketches. So nobody had the auto run. You both ended up kind of going similar routes. The real, I would say, a couple divergence, and we could talk about a little bit strategy here, and then of course, Loxi, you can go ahead and finish your run after. But just talking strategy here. So, Gabriot, you kind of talked about your initial thoughts around going this void binding route with monstrous penumbra, trying to build up large damage, defense, and then you did this kind of hard pivot really early into this Awoken Hollow plus Sweeper setup, using kind of Glimmer plus the restores, Unleash the Wildwood, and then you did a second fairly hard pivot into a Shattered Shell as your sweeper, which, as you said, made it a little bit more complicated with this Void Binding, killing off the same units that you want to kill off with your Shattered Shell.
Right. Yeah. Loxi, what have you kind of gone with as your main
I
plan
did
here?
take that Shadow Siege,
Oh, okay.
but I immediately infused it into Husk Hermit and duped the Razor Sharp Edges as my scaling and holdovered it, and that's basically all of my scaling. And then I've just got the Void Bindings and all of the regen stuff to just keep Penumbra alive in front of Husk Hermit, because I never found Quick on it, so...
You can also kind of imply there that she did not go with Monstrous. She went with Architect, which is why she can
Architect.
why she can
Right.
play a Monstrous, or play Penumbra in front of her Sweeper.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I thought you might have taken Trample, because I saw you got through Ring 1 with the armor trial with no damage, so I'm like, you must have taken Trample, because I couldn't find the line to get through to get through that first ring clean, so I thought that might have been what you did just looking at your score.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I definitely went Trample. It unfortunately didn't do much for me later on.
Yeah, that's sort of the whole thing, right? With Monstrous is like it'll win rings 1 and 2 for you, but it's sort of hard to fit into any long-term plan.
Right.
Yeah, I basically
Yeah.
auto-picked Architect. I didn't even consider Trample. I didn't even
Yeah.
consider Monstrous.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Monstrous fan. The only time I guess I consider it is in this combo, because I often find I can't get much out of Architect, and I might be able to get something out of Monstrous, particularly if I can get the Gorge flex. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think what you did makes a lot more sense altogether, especially like seeing the Razor Sharp. I should have just thought more along the lines of, you know, a Shadow Siege Husk would be better than what I was trying to do, which was basically the Awoken Hollow and Husk. I think I was just too tunnel visioned on that to even see that Shadow Siege as being like a potentially good infusion. But then yeah, it is pretty much a lot of good stats. So
I sat there on that reward screen for a while because I saw the Shadow Siege and immediately regretted not taking the sketches.
Yep.
And I sat on it for a while just thinking about that, and then it kind of hit me after a while. Like if I had have maybe been playing fast, I maybe wouldn't have taken the Shadow Siege. But yeah,
I think there's a lot of surprising lines here. I mean, obviously, I think the winning line, if you want to just go ideal, having known everything, is obviously Sketches plus Shadow Siege. But I actually think there's a really solid robot line here, because you get robot, you get your Shroud Spike. All of that works really well with all of these artifacts, which are generating tons of morsels for you. And there was both the, the mass, the entire floor damage shield. So there is even a line where you can keep all the morsels alive. So that, personally, that probably would have been my line. I typically pivot into robot if I see it by ring 3. And
there was a lot of good morsel cards early too. Like I saw the early Grovel, and I was like, that's a pretty good card. But do I really want to go Umbra?
Yeah, that's always the risk, right?
always
Like
the
if you
conundrum.
don't get robot or morsel made, super hard to be successful with a strong Umbra focused deck, especially Gorge focused deck.
Yeah, I've started to like Gorge Penumbra a bit more. it's also like kind of an okay thing that you can. It's weird because it's like they're that and Morsel Mate are like the only two things that actually kind of scale off of Gorge. Does that make sense? Like they're the ones that actually gain like a tangible benefit, I feel.
I think Robot is in a very particular spot where he does require non-morsel support or extremely good comboing with Shroud Spike. But I find like Robot, especially in an Awoken build, I like him a lot because he's so easy to play your Razor Sharp Edge on. It's very focused on just protecting one unit instead of protecting multiple units. So I like it quite a lot. But definitely Morsel Mate being like just not auto win, but it's hard to lose a Morsel Mate run if you get it.
I've managed to do it a few times.
Oh, me too. Don't get me wrong. I've definitely managed to lose, but it's hard to lose.
It's usually just not enough strikes.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Usually the problem you have to solve.
Either strikes or trample. If you don't get one of the two, it can be pretty brutal. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call this game. So congratulations, Loxi, on your first win of the first season of the Monster Train League. As I said, feel free to play out the rest of the run. I'm going to end the stream here. So appreciate you guys and your participation. And remember, Gabriot, it's still only the first game. We got lots more to play, is what I keep telling myself after my first performance.
It's all about the comeback, right?
Yeah. It's the story. It's the story. You gotta start off struggle.
Right.
But yeah, so thanks you guys both. And I'll record the run and we will kick things off again next week. See you guys later.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nate.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, Nate. And well played, Loxi.
Thanks, Gabriot. See you later.
See you later.
And again, thanks on the stream. I know I just here, we'll just turn this off for a second. Oh, not that. Thanks you guys again for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed this Monster Train League game, and we'll be back with more